back. Very many thanks for choosing to stay with us. And in case you're just joining us, welcome to Kenya's Gold, where our focus today is understanding a lot more when it comes to the quality of coffee. And to help us with that conversation, we have Lispa and Mbula. And right about now, we have the display of the different grades of coffee. Now, we of course had the experience of a milling factory, and we understood from grade E, grade AA, grade AB, grade C, grade PB. But we also have the grade T, we have UG, and we have this which we are calling the blacks. Please help us understand how we arrived to the grade Ts all the way to the blacks.
All right, wonderful. When it comes to the grade Ts, a T is below 14 screen size. And then we have something we are calling boonies. We have boony heavies and boony lights. That is all about the process of, at the production level, the picking. It could be the unripe beans, the overripe beans. Those are what contribute to boony heavies and boony lights. And also you look at the density. It contributes to whether it's a heavy or it's a light bean. And then we have something we call ungraded. This could be a conglomeration of the various grades, but it's ungraded. So that's what makes UGs.
All right.
And then we have something we are calling the naturals. This is also different because of the process of the wet processing. It could be a bit different. They could choose to do it in a special way. Some even go as far as incorporating honey in the process of attaining the naturals.
All right.
And then we have something else we call the SBs. Those are the sorted beans. This could come out from the various grades. You could have, these are the beans with defects. From the AAs, the ABs, these are the beans with defects. But further to this, we have something we are calling the blacks.
Right.
This could be diseased beans, maybe that could have been caused by maybe things like fungus, which could have come maybe due to high moisture content. And here we have a moisture meter. I'm sure the quality analyst is going to take us through that to show us what are the right, moisture parameters that will help a grower understand that this is the best practice for drying and all that, so that you don't achieve such defective beans.
Right.
Of course, at the exchange, we're able to sell all these grades. So by the time
even the blacks?
Yeah, everything. As the market is open to all this. So every time you see maybe the average for the auction, for example, was $244 per 50. It takes care of the highs and the lows, because this platform is there to serve the growers. Yes.
Kabla tuondoke hapo, kuna masuala ya defects. Hizi zinaletwa na nini? Wakati mkulima anakosea wapi ndio upate hizo defects?
All right. You could find that kuna zile ziko at the farm level. Maybe production process yake, it had a bit of an issue. And then there are those that are related to the processing of the coffee. So if at the farm level, maybe kulikuwa na CBD attacks, diseases, it will reflect on the quality of the coffee. At the processing level, maybe kuna over-fermentation, maybe there's no proper sanitation of the fermentation tanks. You could also find that maybe ilika sana na mucilage, those kind of things. Unaweza also pata the drying, which is what I was talking about earlier, the moisture content, iko juu. Manake it's supposed to dry to around 10.5 to 11%. So those are the things that contribute to defects of the coffee beans.
Mbula, coming to you, now that we're understanding, for us to have the grade like the blacks, it could either be a mistake at a farm level or a processing level. From the experience you've had, where out of those two do we see a lot of the challenge coming from? Is it at a farm level or a processing level?
That's a very good question, and it gets asked a lot of times because as human beings, we like also to shift blame. But what I'll say is quality starts all the way from the farm. That's the primary place where you would determine a cup quality. But it can be affected all the way to the person who serves you coffee in a cafe. Even that person can waste all these efforts just because of something that they don't do correctly. But in terms of the green bean defects, these arise from the farm level primarily. But further to that, in processing plants, you have issues of uncalibrated equipment that sometimes can break beans that were otherwise very whole beans, and this can then fall into a different grading or a different category just because the milling or the secondary processing plant had faulty equipment. Cleaning of these spaces is also important. If I processed coffee in December and the milling machine where all the coffees went through was not swept clean of all the coffees that went through, and I'm coming to mill the next harvest, you will definitely find some blacks there or some sour beans there that are just a result of old beans that never got cleaned out of the system. And then you have defects that occur from the logistics process, transportation. You can have farmers sometimes who will hire the services of a transportation crew that used the same vehicle for transporting cow dung. Or onions, or beetroot, or something that has color or has a different aroma, a different taste, a different flavor. And coffee is one of those products that absorbs both smells and tastes. And in that case, it gets converted to a low-quality product just by virtue of the transportation that has been used. So what I'm trying to say is it cuts across, but the primary place is at the farm level.
Does using organic fertilizer and organic manure and chemical fertilizer also lead to the change? Because there's a farmer we talked to and they said using organic manure gives your coffee a better taste than someone who's using chemical fertilizer. Help us understand how true that is.
Well, I guess it also depends on what the coffee needs. Sometimes you'll find farms that actually don't need. There are places where they have organic coffee by default, just because they have such fertile soil, such high altitude, and such good rainfall, while others do not. So they have to get a formulated product that gives their coffee what they need. In the end, the product that comes out is what is important. And if the manure is applied on the soil and on the crop, then it doesn't really affect flavor negatively. But the one that gets in contact with the green bean or with the parchment, that's where the problem would be.
Sasa, tushikilie hapo sasa. Tuje sasa katika masomo tekelezi au practical. Tuangalie, umepanga vizuri sana. Nini naendelea hapa?
Sasa hii ndio process ya kukagua quality ya kahawa, ubora wa kahawa. And we, as I said earlier, we use a standard that is, a language that is spoken across the world because Kenya is known for specialty coffee. This process that I'm going to demonstrate today only applies to specialty coffee because the form is already dealing with coffee that's considered good to a certain level. As you can see, these beans are clean, no defects, maybe one or two broken beans. Yeah.
Fanya hivi kwa sababu ya kamera.
Ndio ukiangalia unaona the beans themselves are pleasant to look at, but also you do not see any particular defects that can impact the taste. So the next thing to do is to check for moisture, because moisture is an important parameter for checking quality. A lot of moisture meters exist, but this one is a quick one. It does the checking very fast. So we just pour in a certain amount. Asante. And then we'll turn it on. And once it comes on,
inawaka vizuri.
Inawaka vizuri, and it will tell us to assess. This is green Arabica. It's used for various products. And so it tells us to pour the sample in the cup and tighten it. So once it starts to beep, that's when you know it's measuring.
Okay. So tayari inapima sasa.
Sasa inapima unyevu ulioko kwenye the green coffee.
Okay. So kuna wakati unafika kiwango kipi ndio ujue kwamba sasa ndo nzuri?
Sasa ukiangalia inatuambia ni 10.5.
Okay, 10.5.
And 10.5%. So for specialty coffee it should be 10 to 12%. If it's below 10%, then it means it's too dry. If it's above 12%, then it's too wet, and that risks flavor loss, it risks mold, which are health issues.
Do we send those reports back to the factories once you realize, yes, there was a problem with your moisture content, there was a problem with your farm practices, as a way of helping the factories do better next time? Do
Definitely.
they get to get those reports
Yes, because they come to us, we will offer them a report. It's a 3-level report. As we said, we do the green, which is this, and using this form, we count the defects and equate it to full defects. So as you can see, we have category 1, which are potent defects, including foreign matter, stones, nails, all those things. And then you have category 2 that are more impactful on the visuals as opposed to the taste. So things like broken beans, withered beans, they might not affect that much, but they also do in the grand scheme of things. So this is the green report that we give all that information, including the moisture reading right here. The next thing is to test the roasted coffee. So the coffee is roasted into a level that enables us to do tasting. As you can see,
inafuata sasa.
Ndio, hii ndio inafuata sasa. Kuna viwango tofauti vya ku transform kahawa into a roasted bean. As you can see, this is slightly lighter, which means you get all the attributes coming at you just for what they are. The moment you over roast the coffee, you burn out some of those attributes. So you cannot taste a dark roasted coffee for purposes of evaluation. It needs to be light to medium roasted. And so once that is done, we also have a way of checking. This is a gadget that we use to check. We just compare it to a tile and make sure that it's within the specified range, which is 63. It's based on reflection of light.
Umesema?
So hii tile ndio tunatumia kuhakikisha kuwa kahawa imekaangwa kwa kiwango ambacho kina faidi mkulima, kwa sababu tunajaribu kuona what are the qualities or attributes of this coffee. If we roast it badly, then it's our fault that it's been tasted differently. And so to ensure that it is standardized, we have ways of checking, and we try and make sure that we stick to the standard so that the farmer is not being told your coffee is over roasted or it's under roasted, it's tasting grassy or it's tasting smoky. Yet the problem was in the lab because somebody over roasted or under roasted. So it's just a checking way to make sure that it's really being analyzed for its attributes as opposed to somebody's human error.
So hapo sasa kuna jambo ambalo linafuata baada ya hapo.
Ndio, hapa inaendelea kutayarika.
Naomba sana nigeuze vile vile ndio mtazamaji afaidike, na mimi kwa sawa kabisa inaendelea kuonesha asilimia ikipanda, sio?
Ndio, ina warm up ili tuwezeshe kufanya assessment. Ikiendelea ku warm up, we are going to just put some coffee on so that we can assess it.
So hapo unapima kiwango kipi ndio ujue kwamba hapa sasa utakapopima itakuwa sawa?
Wastani tu, yani ile ambayo itaweza kutoshea kwenye mviringo huu. Na ini the same circumference na hii, kwa sababu this gadget, hiki cha kupima kinahitaji kumulika miali ya mwangaza. Inatumia miali ya mwangaza kuassess kama kahawa imepata kurostiwa correctly ama imerostiwa under or over. So it's important so that hata ukimuzia mnunuzi ngambo utamwambia hii kahawa was roasted to this level. So this is the starting point of our conversation. It's not about a roast that's dark or light. You need to, as a starting point, even if I send you a sample, achieve this roast so that then we are talking about oranges to oranges. As
so can you see the cupping now?
Yes. So as this warms up, we have our water ready. And so usually we time to 4 minutes. Dakika 4, nikishaanza kumimina, you hit the start button.
Kati ya hizi ni gani?
Hiyo start hapo. Ready?
So lazima ikuendane nayo kabisa.
Inafaa iwe dakika 4. Ikipita dakika 4 itaanza ku over extract, meaning you're going to have bitter tastes because you have over extracted the coffee. Ni vile tu unaweza kuweka tea bag kwenye maji ya moto. You keep it in for too long, then it starts to taste bitter. But if you keep it for the right time, then you have a good tasting cup of tea. So that was a dark roast. I'll move on to the lighter roast so that you can taste both. We might not have enough water, but at least you'll get a chance to taste.
Lakini mtazamaji afahamu kwamba maji ni vuguvugu moto.
And also we are using 5 cups because sometimes you can have uniformity issues. If some beans didn't roast properly or had defects, you can only assess that if you separate the cups. So this is the same exact coffee but in 5 cups.
And does the water matter. Someone could be using a different fresh water, salty water, or just a different brand of water, and we understand all of them somehow have different components. Does it bring a difference in the taste and quality of the coffee as well?
Very, very good point. That is, a coffee is 98% water.
Okay.
So if you have bad quality water, it will impact the taste of your coffee. And that's why the water needs to be between 125 to 175 dissolved solids. If you can't have that, it's best to go for bottled water. So maji the faucet water or tap water, because you cannot really test it. If you don't have the equipment to test it, it's best to avoid it unless you're sure that it's within the range. Because if the water is too hard, then you'll taste the salt. If it's too distilled, then it will over-extract.
All right, definitely so much to learn right here on Kenya's Gold when it comes to the quality of coffee, and it's becoming evident that there's more than meets the eye when it comes to the quality. Now, I know you're very curious. You want to see how the cupping is done. That will be happening immediately we come back from this short commercial break, so don't go anywhere.